Hi, this is Paul Krazan. I'm the Network Media Product Manager at AMX, and in this video I'd like to show you what's new in Composer 5.4. In Composer 5.4, we've tried to bring out some feature enhancements that make the manageability and usability of your signage system even easier. The first feature I'd like to show you today is the ability to pull back message play logs from your different players in your system. This is great if you want to audit how often a message played across one or more players, to determine, for instance, that they played at a particular time or that they played with a particular frequency that you require for your signage system. So let me show you how to do that. The first thing is we need to go onto the player itself, and we need to enable the logging capability on the player itself. So you'll need to have the latest player version running for this to work. And we basically bring up the web config page on that player. We go to the Screen tab, and then we can choose to enable as run logging. So if this checkbox is enabled, we will make logs, if you will, of all the different messages on the player. So in this case, it was already enabled on this player. So we'll go back into Composer. Then I go to the Messages section. And in the Messages section, I can choose one or more messages about which I want to get log data. And then I go over and I choose As Run Report over here on the right. This is going to bring up a dialog box where I can configure how I want my logging data to come back. I can choose which players I want to collect logging data on. In this case, I only have one player in my system, so I'll check that box. Then I can pick a date range. You can pick an arbitrary date range, or we have some convenience functions here. I'm going to pick yesterday. And then you can also, now, if you go with this default, you'll see all the message data all the messages that were played on the players you selected for those dates. But what you can do is you can optionally filter out on specific messages. So if you really just want to see how a particular message played across multiple different players, you can use this. But in this case, we'll go ahead and bring back all the data off of this player. Now there's two ways that we'll provide the data to you. One is in an XML format, which basically provides you summary data, so how often a player played, how the duration that it played for a given day or days, as well as detailed information about exactly when every message played. You can also get a CSV report, and the CSV report is easy to open in Excel. Now it just has the detailed play information, and then you can use Excel to create summary data or to otherwise analyze it. So in this case, let's bring back the XML data from the player. So it's now going to the player and requesting the play logs. And now I'm going to open it up in my web browser for viewing purposes. And if we take a close look at this data, we can see at the very top level I have the absolute sum of all messages played and their duration, and then it goes down into finer levels of granularity. So I can see for this given message, how many times did it play, and what was the total duration of it playing. So this message was on for almost 24 hours of that day. And then you can further drill down in granularity by player, by day, things like that. And then at the bottom you can see for this particular message specific play data, such as what was the start time, what was the end time, and the duration. And you can see every instance of a message play in here if you want to really analyze this data. It's all in there. So we'll close that down for now. And again, you can do the same thing with CSV, only you only get the detailed information when it comes back. So that's how you get back message play reports. We'll close that. The second thing that I'd like to show you is our ability in Composer 5.4 to display a snapshot of a web page as an image within your message. So any messages that you have in Composer that have an image field, you can now choose to display a snapshot of a web page. So I'll show you an example. I have a message already created here. This is intended to be an inspired signage product announcement message. And in this, there's basically only an image property. Now, as before, I could choose to upload an image of my product, But in this case, I'm going to actually point it at a web address. And in this case, it's the URL of our website where this image is contained. Now, in this case, I'm showing an image, but you can actually snapshot a web page as part of this. Now, since this is what I would like it to be, I'll just cancel out of this. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add this to one of my playlists that's running on my player, and I'll add it to the primary playlist. And then I'm going to go publish this change to the player. And so now what it's doing is it's publishing this message, and the player is going to get the message, and the player is going to take that message, and it is going to go retrieve the web page. It's not something that's done within Composer, it's done within the player itself. Then if we go back over to the player and we bring up its web config, we can see a live monitor of what's playing on the screen. Now this message was the existing message that I had, and I've added the new web-based message as an additional message on this sign. And there it is. This image was actually pulled directly off of our website. I didn't have to upload it. And so if we ever change this image or some other image that we want to represent the signage player, it would automatically update within our signage content itself. And so again, to reiterate, this capability exists anywhere that you had a message that had an image field. Now the next thing I'd like to show you is some improvements we've made on the approval screen. So some of the feedback that we've gotten is on the approval screen, sometimes it's difficult to know what a user changed. So to illustrate the improvements that we've made, I'm going to go ahead and log out as the administrator, and I'll log in as a user that has very, very limited permissions. In fact, this person is so limited they can only change this one message. And if we open this message, we find that it's a product message about our DVX 3150. Well, it's shipping now, so I'm going to change the message to say it's now shipping, and I'm going to save it. But because I don't have review and approval permissions, it's now going to go to a waiting approval status, and then I'm going to need somebody to log in and approve that message. So when I log in now as the administrator and I can approve this message, and I go over to my approval queue, I can see the message, and now when I view changes, it will highlight those fields which have changed. So you'll notice the picture didn't change, so it's not reflected in here. And we've actually highlighted the text fields that are different. And so this is particularly useful if you have a message that has a lot of different text fields and a user only changes one or two of those fields. This helps you narrow down on what was changed. So in this case, I can see that this content, this change is satisfactory, and I'll go ahead and approve it at this time. Now, when you edit messages, one of the tools that we give you to help understand the template is a template preview. This is to help you to get a feel of what fields are shown, what properties are in there, and things like that. And one of the things that we wanted to do is make some of this data a little bit easier to get at. And so if you go in and you edit a message now, one of the things that we have is a significantly larger template preview. This pops up on the screen and allows you to see what the template looks like, as well as information about the name of each of these fields. So when you're in editing the title and the body, you can actually very easily now in this preview tell where that content gets edited. Also, making the system easier to run, or to manage, if you will, we wanted to help you get some information at a glance, some information about your system. And so if we look now in the players section, one of the things that we're pulling back from all the players is its version information. So this is great if you have a lot of players in your system and you want to know if they're all running the latest software version, or you want to know if some of them need to be updated, or if certain ones of them aren't playing certain kinds of content. It's very easy now to tell what version they're on because we bring that information back and present it in a list here with all of the players. And if for some reason we can't reach a player, we'll give you a note saying that we can't reach it, and that's why we don't have the version numbers. Also related to the players and getting information quickly, is you can now see on your publish points at a glance how many players I have underneath any given publish point. I can also, when I open the player, I can see its IP address and how many playlists it's running. This is all information that you could get before, and what we've tried to do is make it easier and something that you can get at more quickly if you're administering a large system. The last thing I'd like to show you is a small feature change we've made to message validity. So with message validity, we give you the ability to define when a message will and won't play on a signage player. It means that you don't have to build up complicated playlists that will only play at certain times and not others. You can actually say for a specific message, when do I want it to be available? And you can choose, for example, a from date and a to date. But if you want to define, you might want to define specific rules, such as I only want this to play in the mornings on Monday. And in this, you would go in and you would find, for example, I want it to play from 9 till noon on a Monday, and this becomes a validity rule where the message will play during that period of time. With this sort of drag and drop interface, we were limited to about 15-minute intervals. Well, now, if you want a finer level of granularity, for example, maybe you want that message to play until 12:05, you can still get the ease of drag and drop, and then go in here and fine-tune that I want this message to play until 12:05. Otherwise, all the message validity rules still apply. And what we've done is just simply applied a finer granularity on validity rules. So that's it. That's all the new features I have to show you. I hope you enjoy the new release. Please keep in mind that with Composer 5.4, there is an accompanying player software release that you'll also need to install on any players if you want those players to access some of the new features that I've showed you today. Thanks a lot.